Hello everybody, it's Evan here again with Ryan Zemansky, my good friend. And Ryan, we're talking about today, one question I had is these battleships are so impressive in terms of their armor and everything. If I was a submarine captain, where would I want to hit a battleship if I really wanted to sink it?
Ooh, so that's a tough one. For American fast battleships, we have very few examples of them taking underwater damage. New Jersey's torpedo defense is normally 22 feet deep,
Oh wow.
at least over the citadel of the ship, and that retains enough reserve of buoyancy that even if all of the non-armored parts of the ship get flooded, the ship will still stay afloat. So that 22-foot depth includes 5 different layers of steel, one of which is the shell plating, which is up to 1.5 inches thick, one of which is the armored belt, which is 12.1 inches thick, up to that. It does taper as it gets lower in the ship because armor is too rigid. You want your armor to be able to, or your protection against underwater explosions, to be able to deform and absorb the explosive as opposed to outright rejecting it like you would with a projectile. And in addition to that 22-foot depth, 2 of those 4 void spaces that form our torpedo defense system are filled with fuel. So that fuel or seawater or whatever kind of fluid we have in there is going to help absorb a lot of that impact.
So what you're telling me is the U.S. Navy during World War II did not want these battleships to be sunk by torpedoes in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all. And the Navy calculated that it would take 6 800-pound warhead hits on one side of the ship to have a reasonable chance of overcoming the ship's torpedo defense system.
So, say I find myself, I am a Japanese captain of one of the many submarines. I see Battleship New Jersey. Just this is all hypothetical. So you have a great firing solution. Where would I want to hit it for my best shot at putting New Jersey in the water?
No Iowa-class battleship ever took torpedo damage, but other American battleships did. You have ships like Nevada, California, Oklahoma, and West Virginia that all take torpedo damage during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Pennsylvania takes torpedo damage in April of 1945, but those are all older types of American battleships with much less sophisticated torpedo defense systems. There's only one example that we can look at for torpedo damage to a modern American fast battleship, and that is North Carolina, September 15th, 1942. And she takes a hit just under turret number 1, which on an Iowa-class battleship, that part of the ship is roughly frame 50 to frame 70, that range. And the Navy believes that that hit, that single torpedo hit, struck her in the worst possible location. Now, I said that the torpedo defense is normally 22 feet deep. Well, around turret number 1, it actually reduces in depth to about 18 feet, which is not enough to sufficiently stop a torpedo explosion, especially an 800 or 1,000-pound warhead like some Japanese torpedoes were. So that torpedo, the one torpedo to hit an American fast battleship during the entire war, hit her in the exact worst space where her torpedo defense was the thinnest, and it forced them to flood the magazines in it for turret number 1, in addition to all the damage to the void system, which put enough water into the ship that she was never threatened from sinking, like foundering in any way, but the magazines were a threat to explode, and it was enough damage that, hey, we've now lost a turret, we're now significantly down by the bow, we've lost a lot of reserve of buoyancy, and we got a big hole in the side of the ship. So she ends up getting sent home for several months, and she misses the climactic November battles around Guadalcanal, the series of naval battles that really determined that campaign, including famous battleship Admiral Willis Lee, who does sail on board New Jersey at one point, taking his 2 remaining fast battleships, sister ship Washington and the next class South Dakota, to engage Japanese battleships in Iron Bottom Sound.
And I believe that was the Japanese submarine I-19, which did not survive the war. And frankly, I think there's a case that it's probably the greatest torpedo spread during World War II in terms of what was hit. I believe they fired, I want to say 3 or 4 torpedoes, and I believe they all hit their targets. There was a bit of luck involved. The captain, after the war, said that the spread was because of his genius, but I do think there was a little bit of luck involved with these things. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned the magazine. So, what is the risk of a torpedo hit in this spot detonating the magazine?
Yeah, it shouldn't really be that high because the torpedo hit is also bringing water in. So if you have defeated the magazine's protection system, well, then that's letting the water in and you're flooding the magazine, so it's rendering it inert. We don't keep loose powder around. It's stored inside aluminum canisters. Especially, these ships weren't engaged in active combat when the submarine attacked, which is pretty common. Submarines attack when ships are in transit, not when they're like shelling a beach or in the middle of another naval fight. But they thought that there was enough concern with smoke and other stuff near the magazine spaces that the torpedo hit had started a fire close enough that it could spread and cause those spaces to detonate. Now, not enough concern that they had to flood it immediately. They were able to get the crew out of those magazines.
And this was just one torpedo.
A single torpedo hit.
It should be said. Now, this is a little bit of a counterfactual, but do you think if there were 3 to 4 torpedo hits in the same area, could that have sent North Carolina to the bottom if they had put more in?
Oh yeah, if North Carolina had taken more hits, lost more of her reserve of buoyancy because those hits come down the side of the ship or hit close enough together that one's detonating inside of the hole caused by the other, both of those scenarios you are defeating enough of the torpedo defense that potentially you could be letting enough water into the ship to endanger the ship.